have a question. What is your favorite song and how do you connect with it? Is it when you fell in love or through something really difficult? I'm your host, Tiffany Mason. Now join me as I interview others and we take a walk down memory lane with them. Let's get lost in why that music matters to them. Turn up your radio and let's explore Memories with a Beat. Hello, Podcast Land. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Memories with a Beat. And today I have with me Laura Fulks, and I met her through a networking group, and I just felt like the things that she was talking about really resonated with me, and it had to do with music. So I'm excited to bring you guys a little bit of a different spin today, speaking about the use of playlists, but then we are going to talk about some of Laura's songs that she really appreciates in her life. So, Laura, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? Are you married? I don't know. Whatever you think is relevant, let my audience know.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So, a little bit about me. I live in Chicago. I'm originally from Michigan, but moved here in 2003. So, I can't believe I've been here for 18 years. I am married, and my husband is Australian, and we
Ooh.
lived in Australia for 2 years. From 2013 to 2015, one of my biggest regrets in life was not doing a study abroad. So, this was a really great opportunity for me to live abroad while living in my adult life. And that is actually when I decided to change careers because I used to work in advertising and was really getting burnt out from that, wanted to find something different to do. And so, while we were living in Australia, I learned about health coaching and decided to make the leap to become a health coach at that point.
Now I have to ask. I mean, if it was me and he spoke 3 words to me, I'd probably already be in love because I just love the Australian accent. So, did you marry him because you love him, or did you marry him just because of his accent?
I mean, the accent didn't hurt for sure, but yes, no, I definitely fell in love with him and his accent. What's funny though is I don't actually even hear his accent anymore. So
Oh,
there's certain
crazy.
words that will come out that I'll notice, but most of the time I don't even notice it anymore.
I have a girlfriend, and her husband has probably 2/3 of his face covered with a very, very dark red birthmark. Um, she and I have been friends for over 10 years now, and it's the same thing. Like, that's just, that's just him. I don't even think twice about it. But I remember when each one of our kids, because we lived close to when our kids were being born or when they were younger, and when they would come over, they'd kind of stare at him, and it would take me a minute to realize, oh, that's right, he looks kind of scary because he's got this birthmark over half of his face. But it's the same thing. We would just look past it. We just didn't even notice it anymore. And so same thing, like if we got to dinner with them, we've gone on vacation with them a couple of times, gone out to dinner, and people will stare and I'm like, what are they staring at? And then it dawns on me like, oh, the man has, 2/3 of his face covered with a dark red birthmark. So it makes sense. But it's
Yeah.
funny how something so obvious to everybody else can become so like background.
Yeah, and it's so funny because every time we order food or need to do anything over the phone, he's like, "Can you please just call because people can't understand me?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I don't even realize it anymore."
Too funny. Okay, so you said you're a health coach. What does that mean? Who do you help? I mean, it's kind of like a fitness coach, right? There's like 83 different varieties. So,
Uh-huh.
what do you do in the health coaching space, Laura?
Yeah, so I really work with people on their relationship with food and helping them to transform that. So most of my clients, they know what they should be doing, but they're not doing it and they don't know why.
Mm,
So they have so much information. They have had a lot of success in the past with changing their eating habits, losing weight, and for some reason they're just not able to get back on track. They're not quite sure. They know that there's food is a piece of it, but they also feel like there's something else that's keeping them from being able to be consistent. And so I really love to work with them to help them get to the why and why are they self sabotaging? Why are they falling off track, not being able to be consistent? And really, they want to move and shift into using food for nourishment. And right now, they're using it for other reasons. So, whether that's for stress or emotional reasons, and just helping them figure out what it is that's leading them to turn to food and want to use it for other than nourishment. even though again they know what they should be eating, but they're not able to do it. And so really getting to the bottom of that is what I'm super passionate about.
That's so awesome. I know that's probably right where I am. I mean, I'm probably your number one. Like if there was an avatar, it's like, oh, it's Tiffany Mason. Uh, I struggle with that so much, just knowing the right things to do. But for whatever reason, today at the gas station, I got a bag of Gardettos, and I was like, "This I shouldn't really do this because I know what I'm having for dinner." And I was even coming home to snack on half of an avocado, and so I was like, "That'll fill me up, and that'll be good." But instead, I still bought the stupid Chex Mix, and so I completely understand, and I really do need to get in touch with you, and work on that myself. And that was why I thought it was so interesting to have you on here because I know you had shared one of the coping mechanisms with me. So let's go into your history first because I know your history kind of builds into what we want to kind of talk about. So Laura, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that you've kind of been there, done that, and then we can maybe talk a little bit about some music that's important to you.
I think that's one of the things that has been really helpful for my clients is the fact that I've been where they are. So I really struggled with my weight starting around the age of 12 and would basically I tried every single diet. I went to my first program with my parents when I was like 13
Oh,
and tried to lose weight. I mean, it was like just a journey and a battle consistently. And it hit a point in college and right after college where I was on the same program for like 2 years, lost 40 pounds, gained it all back, plus more. And
mm,
after college, I went to my doctor and she's like, we need to do something about your weight. And I was like, I'm so burnt out from working at it. Like I was just exhausted. So it took me a few different approaches and about 3 to 5 years. It's kind of blurry on the timing now, but it was about 3 to 5 years that I lost 60 pounds and I have been able to keep it off since then. As I was going through that journey, I never thought that I could actually overcome my food battles or issues or my weight or anything like that. And once I hit my goal, I was like, wow, okay, I can actually do this. And I really want to help other people on their journeys. And what was really interesting is even though I had lost the weight, had been maintaining it for a few years, I went to get my certification as a health coach and started that process in 2014. So at this point, it's about 6 years that I had lost the 60 pounds. And I had more information than ever as I'm getting my certification. The interesting thing was, though, that I was still in the cycle of self sabotage. Now,
mm,
it was kind of, I'll say, use the words controlled because I would like lose and gain the same 2 to 3 pounds, but it was still the same cycle, even when I had more weight to lose, where I would eat well for a while, say screw it, eat whatever I wanted, and then have to get back on track again, rein it back in, and lose the weight that I had gained. And it was a really exhausting cycle. And so at that point, I was introduced to my health coach, started working with her on my relationship with food to really understand why I was stuck in that cycle and what was leading me to self sabotage. And that's when I was like, oh my God, first of all, I had no idea that this existed, that there was support or help for the relationship with food versus like the dieting. And like that's what the diet industry pushes is just you need more willpower, you need more
yeah,
self-control and discipline, and then you'll be able to have success. Put in more work, but there's so much more to it. And going through that process was not easy by any means, but the fact that I've been through it before and now am on the other side where I now understand my relationship with food and see that if at any point I am starting to go down that path of self sabotage or mindless eating or any of those symptoms of what would lead me to eat, now I have so much more clarity and awareness as to what is happening that I'm able to stop it before it snowballs and continues to go down the path. So that's a little bit of history about me and where I was and how I got to health coaching.
got a podcast? Are you loving it, but not loving how much time post-production takes? Or maybe you just have other tasks calling your name a little bit louder. Virtually You can help.
check out virtualuva.com, supporting you in all things podcasting like editing, show notes, audiograms, and much more. See the link in the show notes. They're waiting to give you back your time. And on that note, let's get back to the show. Wow, I'm so proud of you that even though you got your coaching certificate, you still identified that something was going on. And so, I mean, I hate to be like this, but I think that, if you're going to talk to me about my relationship with food, I kind of feel like your body maybe represents a little bit of that, right? Like if you were really overweight, I don't know if I would be able to trust you and say, okay, this lady can actually give me these tips. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
getting your hair cut by somebody who didn't do their hair that day. It's like, why would I let this lady do my hair when she didn't even take care of herself? And she's not exemplifying that she knows the skill set to do hair, So I think it makes you probably a lot more credible, but
Hmm.
it probably gives you a ton of sympathy working with your clients, being able to say, like, dude, I've been there, I've done this, I know it's hard, let's power through. And I know I would want to work with you more knowing that you've been there, done that, and you know what that struggle feels like.
For sure. And I think that that is really helpful for my clients because when they are going through a tough point, and often partway through the process that I take clients through, there's a point that we hit that's called like where we're muddling through it. Or even if there's some point where it's like super emotional and it's really hard and they're going through a really vulnerable point, I can tell them that it gets easier and that I've been there and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because sometimes when we're in it, it can feel like we're drowning in it. But to be able to bring
Mm,
that perspective and to say, hey, I've been there, I know what it's like, and it will be okay and it will get better. And this is typically how the process works, and this is what happens, and this might be how you're feeling. I think it does help them a lot to know that they're not alone and that they're not unique, also, because a lot of times people aren't talking and sharing about what they're going through with their relationship with food. And so it feels so isolating. And to have
mm-hmm.
somebody that not only can they open up and share about it with, but then also that can relate to them, I think makes a really big difference.
Absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. Okay, so part of your relationship work is you put together playlists,
Mhm.
right? Am I understanding that correctly? And how does the playlist break down exactly, Laura?
Yeah, so it's a tool that we use in the work. So the way that the programs are typically that they work is that the first few sessions were really unearthing and digging up and really helping to gain clarity as to what is leading to this cycle where they're eating out of alignment with their goals. And then I want to give them tools so that it can help them when they're feeling discomfort and when they're being triggered in some way, so that they don't necessarily have to turn to food. And then we work on, in the last part of the program, on helping to transform and rewrite some of their, what we call a story, so that they can see that there are other options they can choose differently than just turning to food. So the way that this playlist works is they choose 3 songs that help them feel the discomfort, and that really allows them to be safely seen and heard. And then the last song, so it's a 4-song playlist. The last song really empowers them as a reminder how working through tough stuff is already in their bones. And it really helps us to be less reactive with triggering feelings so we can be more in choice. And it also helps to relax the nervous system, which is really important because when we are triggered around food or just in general in life, it's usually our nervous systems are on overdrive. So, by sitting with the discomfort, it also helps to break the automatic pilot cycle of having an uncomfortable feeling and then turning to food so that we don't feel it. And basically, it gets us to turn inwards. And so when I just talked about like it helps us to sit with that uncomfortable feeling instead of turning to food, a lot of times food is taking the place as a way to like numb out or distract us in some way so that we don't have to feel that discomfort. And so the music is now playing that role instead in this when we use this as a tool.
It's like you have to be a therapist. I mean, to
Yes, the work we do is therapeutic. I will definitely say that.
yeah.
It can be.
Well, maybe you have an opinion or an idea on this or whatever, but I hear you saying that the music
Okay, so they're upset, they're worked up, their emotions are in overdrive. They feel overwhelmed, they probably feel anxious. And I know I've done a little bit of work with my own anxiety, and I know what brings me away from it is just to come back to present. That's usually what you hear, when you're
Mhm.
talking about anxiety. And I think that the playlists do that to a certain extent. The other thing that I think that the playlists do, and I would love you to weigh in on this. I mean, these are just my own conclusions, is that sometimes I've heard that people will eat food because they don't do enough happy things in their life, and that food is a happy thing for them. So they get that rush of
Mhm.
endorphins, they get that, comfort, that slow down. And so I wonder if the music gives them enough of that happy feeling. So first of all, I want you to reflect on that, and then I have kind of a part B follow up to this. But what do you think about that, with music being calming and taking away that anxiety, and then with food being happy, but music taking that place?
Yeah, so I think it's a really great question, and it's really interesting because I find that a lot of times my clients are actually eating because they feel out of control around food, but in actuality, they're actually feeling out of choice in
Mm,
other places of their life. So, for an example, is I actually had one client recently who's been discovering this a lot lately. She didn't realize how much she accommodates other people
mm,
and puts everybody else, not only other people, but also her own business. And she's accommodating and putting other people's or things' needs ahead of her own so much that I think this comes back to the question around happiness is if her needs aren't getting met, then she's not feeling fulfilled or satisfied or happy in a
mm-hmm,
whole bunch of different areas of her life. And so she's really starting to connect how much putting other people's needs ahead of her own and her needs not getting met is leading her to eat out of alignment with her goals. And then she did realize too that because she's been accommodating, she's so tired. She would typically turn to food at night and she's like, why don't I just go to sleep? That's really what I need and want. So she's actually started to do that, which is fantastic. So, because of the fact that when our needs aren't met and we are focused on everybody else's and not our own, I think the music does help to at least settle into and reground into your feelings, and just be like kind of go in internally and like reflect internally as to what's
mm-hmm.
happening, because when we're so focused on the external, there's a disconnect. And so I don't if you find that you eat out of alignment with your goals and feel ungrounded, feel out of control, feel discomfort, what the music helps to do is to reground you and just bring you more internal instead of focusing so much on the external and feeling that disconnect that you might be experiencing.
Interesting. Okay. Well, my part B is that I actually had an opportunity to explore this, which I was like, honestly, what I really thought is like, okay, I'm gonna play this music and then I'm still gonna go eat whatever I want to go eat, right? So I had this. So I was thinking, and I was like, okay, what is the root problem? And I know we're gonna go into yours a little bit, and yours was feeling very
Mhm.
misunderstood. So I was trying to identify an emotion, like what is this emotion? If I could put my finger on it, and then I was like, it's like I get angry about something, right? And so, and there's a couple different things that I know trigger this anger, right? And so, I actually made two playlists. I would love to know your
Mhm.
opinion on this. I made one playlist for my angry feelings, and I made one playlist for my loneliness feelings, because really one person triggers this
Mhm.
loneliness, and really almost everything else fits into the other one. So, do you know the song Basket Case? I can't remember. I think it's Green Day, but it's Do You
Yeah.
Have the Time to Listen to Me Whine? So I played that, and I actually played it like 4 or 5 times because it just felt so good. And I was like, just like the beat, and I just was like letting that anger just like sit there and simmer and
Uh-huh.
boil a little bit. I went into the other songs, came to my revival song, and honestly, it was the coolest thing. It escaped my
Mhm.
mind by the time, because I was like, I'm gonna go to the gas station. I'm gonna get a breakfast pizza. And then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna play this playlist that I made. So I made the playlist, and when I got home, I like went right into doing my additional work that I do for Virtually You and Memories with a Beat. And it didn't even. And then later in the afternoon, I was like, oh my gosh, I never went and ate anything when I got home, and I was so stinking
Yes,
pumped.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a perfect example of it just allowed you to actually feel what you were feeling, to process it, to just like get it out almost, and just by giving yourself that space and the time and not just reacting right away to the anger or whatever it was that you were feeling, which then
Yeah.
to numb that out or to avoid feeling that or to just figure out like how to cope with it, you wanted the breakfast pizza. But because of the fact that you were able to sit with that and allow yourself to process that, then the craving dissolved, which is amazing. And you even forgot that you were even thinking about the breakfast pizza, which is so fantastic.
I know. I mean, seriously, that little brain exploding emoji was like when it happened in the afternoon, it dawned on me. I was like, oh, I didn't even, oh my gosh, like it totally worked. And so then I was telling a couple of friends about it, and I just thought it was so amazing. So, A, thank you for the tip, but B, you guys, it works. You need to work with Laura and get your songs put together and
Mhm.
unearth what that feeling exactly is.
Yep.
Now, I know I said yours was misunderstood. Do you want to go into that a little bit and then maybe the songs that you chose for your playlist?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, as I was working through my relationship with food, I learned that I was really afraid of being misunderstood, which is what you were just talking about.
Yep.
And really, it was because there was a risk that I would be seen as a failure and would be rejected. So, that was the reason that being misunderstood was such a big fear of mine, of not
Hmm.
wanting it to happen. Whenever I felt misunderstood, or if I felt that I was at risk for being misunderstood, I would binge eat. Like a fog would come over me where I would kind of just eat something sweet and then something salty and not even realize what I was doing until I would kind of like snap out of it and be like, oh, wait, what just happened? Where did all this food
Can I
go?
interrupt you?
Uh huh.
I heard of it labeled as a snackcident.
I love that. That is fantastic. I would say though, like it's a snackcident because we don't actually know what's happening, but it's
Right.
not really an accident because there's so much more into why we ended up
You'll
having to.
help dissolve the snackcident,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, that's the goal. That's the goal. So yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea around my feeling misunderstood. And then do you want me to go into the songs that I
Yeah,
used?
yeah,
So the first song that I had a whole playlist, but one of the songs to help me feel the feelings was "Fucking Perfect."
yeah.
So that was that one, and then also loved "Roar" for my like victory march, get me out of it and like pull me, just like empower me again. So
Yeah.
those were the two songs. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over what part of fucking perfect made you like, yes, that is me totally. Yep, that's me too. What are those words that really stick out to you?
So first I just want to say that I think it's so interesting because when you listen to the song, it's very upbeat. And it used to make me bawl my eyes out. It
Uh,
really helped me to get me to feel my feelings, especially when I was feeling misunderstood. And the lyrics also helped me realize that sometimes I might be underestimating myself or misunderstanding myself too. So it's a reminder that
mhm.
I am good enough and am worthy of acceptance, both for myself and from others. And so I think that there's just so many, I think the whole song really
Yeah.
resonates with me. I think where it says like "Welcome to my silly life," mistreated, misplaced, misunderstood, miss know it all. It's all good. It didn't slow me down, and this is the other thing that I think is so great about this song is realizing like I feel like she's talking to me, and that you don't ever have to feel like you're less than fucking perfect, and you're fucking perfect to me, and just because I was, so to back up, the reason that not wanting to be misunderstood was such a big thing for me was because I was bullied a lot when I was in middle school and high school.
Mm.
And so this kind of reminds me that like those bullies and the people who would misunderstand me didn't actually have the power, and their judgments don't actually really matter, and that I can come out above that. So, yeah, I think there's just so
Yeah.
much to the song that really spoke to me or speaks to me.
Well, and I think that line too, "You're
Mhm.
fucking perfect to me." Sometimes when you know something about yourself, but everybody else keeps
Mhm.
saying something differently, I always tell like my friends and stuff, like, I don't know, maybe they want to be, maybe they're absolutely beautiful and maybe they think they're beautiful, but maybe other people are telling them, you're not beautiful, you're too skinny, or you're not beautiful, your hair should be blonde, or
Mhm.
whatever. I always tell them, like, get mad for yourself and declare that feeling. And so, like, no, I'm beautiful and I know it and I'm beautiful and I'm going to stand by that, and you can say whatever you want, but I'm beautiful. And so I feel like that's what that line is, like, you're fucking perfect
Mhm.
to me. Who cares what they say? Believe it for yourself, stand in it firm, and know that you are perfect for
Yes.
you.
Totally agree. Yes, I love that.
What else in here comes up for you?
Also, the section that talks about you're so mean when you talk about yourself, you're wrong. Change the voices
Mm,
in your head, make them like you instead. And I think
yeah.
because even when I was bullied, also, like, I, not that I meant to, but like it did get into my head. And then I would also get
Mm-hmm.
into my own head. And I found that for myself, I would just spiral for days after somebody would say something to me that
Oh.
was really mean, of like, why didn't I stand up for myself? I should have said this. They don't know this about me. And
Mm,
like, I would replay it over and over in my head about how I could have handled it differently and maybe would have gotten a different result or something like that. And also, it has, we do have so much internal dialogue as well.
ugh.
And so even that part around change the voices in your head and make them like you instead, it all kind of is related. There's so much when you really unpack this song, for me, there's so much to it, and it can go so much deeper than just the lyrics
Yeah.
on the
I
page.
think almost anybody could relate to this just because of the voices in your head, because of
Mhm.
outer chatter and how much you believe it or how much you choose to believe it, or how you maybe aren't firm enough in your opinion of yourself. If you
Mhm.
what is the saying, something like, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. That's what it is, I think. Anyways,
Mhm.
I love at the end where she's like pleading with herself. Oh, pretty, pretty please, don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect. She's pleading with herself, like, and I love the song. It's so emotional there, and the music really
Mhm.
amps up, and she's just pleading with herself, like, dude, you are so perfect. Stop this craziness.
Mhm. Just even as you're reading it, I still get chills. Like
Mm-hmm.
the song just has so much of it has so much meaning. Like it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's giving me chills as we're even just reading through the lyrics, not even listening to the actual song with the music and everything behind it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she gets so passionate in it, and if you know the song and you've played it hundreds of times, you
Mhm.
know exactly what that part sounds like, and every time you've
Yep.
heard it, how you felt each time. So that does not
Mhm.
surprise me. Okay, I know you had a couple other songs in there, but we were gonna skip to Katy Perry "Roar," and it's funny because you and I have had previous discussions, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe I want my song to be "Roar," and then I was like, no, I want to pick my own song. What will my song be?
Being an original, I love
Yeah.
it. I mean, hey, have more than one, right? Make this one of yours
Yeah.
and your copycat and then your original.
Okay, well, first of all, I love Katy Perry. I mean, you just cannot go wrong with her music. She's kind of like Pink, where she kind of goes out on her own and she has her own thoughts, her own opinions, her own style, and she's not really letting this world sway her. And I think Pink is kind of the same way. So I think you picked pretty cool artists as well as the songs themselves. What do
Mhm.
you think about the song Roar? How did you decide, like, this is going to be I always like to call it my comeback song, because you're coming back from those yucky feelings. So, like, what makes it your comeback song?
Yeah. Yeah, so I really love the lyrics of this song because it talks about being an underdog,
Mm.
which is what we were just talking
Yeah.
about with being bullied and stuff, but finding your power and reclaiming it. And I feel like from when I was bullied, I would just take it so things wouldn't get worse and I would internalize it, like I was talking about with those thoughts in my head. But I feel like I'm now a strong woman who has worked through a lot of my insecurities and I've taken my power back. And especially as I've worked through my relationship with food, and a lot of the work that we do through the process is connecting with our values and
Mm,
reclaiming our power and what's important to us. So I used to try to stay kind of small by not being too visible, but over the last few years, I've really gotten more comfortable with being vulnerable, which is really necessary in the work that I do with my clients, and have found that I enjoy it because people who are going through or have gone through similar things to me can relate,
mm-hmm.
similar to what we were talking about before.
Yep.
But my journey is really what has led me to do what I do now. And I'm on a mission to help people see they don't have to be alone in their struggles with food or their bodies. And I get an immense amount of relief from doing this work and want to help guide and support others to do the same. So this song really helps me feel empowered and energizes me to continue going out into the world and sharing my story and the work that I do.
Hmm. Well, I think that's perfect because that first line is I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to
Yep.
rock the boat and make a mess. So I sat
Hmm.
quietly, agreed politely. I guess I forgot I had a choice. So you pushed me past the breaking point. I stood for
Hmm.
nothing, so I fell for everything. Oh, and that's what I was kind of saying too with the
Hmm.
yeah, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yep.
So when people are saying those awful things, you fall for it because you know you're not you don't stand for what you think about you.
Right. Yeah, and then even that next one, the next line is you held me down, but I got up. And it's like you try to keep pushing me down, but screw you. I got up and I made it.
Yeah, yeah. You hear that voice, you hear that sound like thunder gonna shake the ground. Here's Laura
Yep.
Folks, and she's helping other people to be equally as amazing. That's so awesome. Oh, I just love it. I love it. And then I got the eye of the tiger fighter dancing through the fire. Yeah, I actually, so it says the next words because I am a champion. That was on one of the lists. It's Champion by Carrie Underwood that I picked
Hmm.
for the other song, like the comeback song to kind of, re-empower like I'm a champion. I don't know who you are, but I don't let this stuff get me down. And I love
Yeah.
that's exactly how this one is here. You're going to hear me roar. I just
Yep.
absolutely love
I've
that.
got so much to say and I am letting it out.
Yeah, yeah. Now you have this huge online presence and you're working with people. And I think that's a roar too. I mean, it's a silent roar. I took this class one
Hmm.
time and it said, at the end of your life and you're looking at all the people that you've helped through your business. She was like, I want you to envision that. What does that look like? She's like, is it 5 people standing on a beach? Is it 25 people standing on a beach? And I think most optimistic people see a crowd. And so that is your roar, Laura,
Hmm.
at the end. When you look out at this sea of people who you've helped, I'm like giving myself goosebumps. That's weird. Uh, but it is such a cool thought. It's so cool. And I'm just so stinking proud of you. I think it's so
Aw, thank
amazing.
you.
I hope everybody makes their own playlist, but I also hope if you are struggling, reach out to Laura and just have a couple conversations. Do you do some kind of discovery call in the beginning, Laura?
Mhm. Yeah, I offer a curiosity call and it's 40 minutes, it's free. And I always just say, bring your curiosity and I'll bring mine. And I just want to hear what your challenges are, what kind of support you're looking for, and what your goals are. And we'll chat about whether my approach is right for you. It's not right for everybody. And I realize that. And so if it's not the right approach, then I'm happy to point you in the direction of somebody who might be a better fit. But of course, if it is, I love to support people as much as possible to help so that they can find their playlists and songs to help them through transforming their relationship with food and really helping so that they don't have to feel isolated in this journey and working through what they're going through with food and their bodies as well.
Yeah, so cool. Well, I hope you guys got a lot from this conversation between Laura and I. Of course, her information will be in the show notes if you guys want to connect, or if you just even want to, like, creep on her on social media and check
I
her out.
love creepers.
Check her out from a distance before you get all personal. Um, and of course, guys, we're always begging for those ratings. If you would give me 5 stars, come on, you love me. And then if you feel like leaving a review, I always want to hear what you guys have to say, or hit me up on social media and just let me know how you feel about this conversation that we had. I mean, it's a very emotionally charged thing when you're trying to lose weight and you're feeling isolated and you're feeling burnt out and you're feeling frustrated and defeated, and the lies can get pretty big in your head. So I would just love to hear what you guys are thinking and feeling based on this conversation. And with that, that's going to be the last note of this episode.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? You never know what rabbit holes we'll get to go down and explore. Were you reminded of anything? Or anyone? Share what it was with me in a review. Honestly, the reviews don't do me any favors other than knowing people like you are listening to this podcast. Insert cheesy wink. However, the ratings do help, so leave me 5 stars. You know you wanna. This podcast was produced by Virtual You, supporting you in all things podcasting. To connect or check me out on social media, I know you're just gonna stalk me. But see the show notes, as always, for details. Can't wait to dive into my next guest's memories with a beat. Hit subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next episode.